So you bought a 286S and you want to know how to set it up? Well, you're in the right place. Hey, Julian Kraus here, and I will show you what all the settings on the 286S do and give you a recommendation what to set them to. My recommended settings are specially tailored for voice recordings, but if you understand what all the knobs do, then you can easily tweak them to fit your recording situation. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. Of course, before we can dial in any settings, we have to connect the DBX to an audio interface and calibrate the audio level. So you will need a smartphone, a microphone, an XLR mic cable, a TRS to TRS or TRS to XLR cable, depending on the input of your audio interface. You also need the audio interface itself, and of course the DBX 286S. Connect your microphone to the XLR mic input on the DBX 286S using the XLR cable. Next up, you have to connect the 286S to your interface. Preferably you go from the DBX's TRS output to a line level TRS input on your audio interface. For that, take the TRS to TRS cable and simply plug one side into the 286S's output and the other side into your audio interface. If your audio interface does not have a TRS input, you will need to use a TRS to XLR cable. Again, plug the TRS jack into the output of the 286S and the XLR part into the XLR connector on your audio interface. Now connect your audio interface to your computer and plug in the power cord of the DBX 286S. Okay, you're all connected. Now let's calibrate the audio level. First of all, make sure that the bypass button on the DBX is disabled, so the LED should be off. If the mic you plugged into the 286S is a condenser microphone, it will need phantom power, so turn it on by pressing this button and the LED will light up. If you are using a dynamic microphone, you do not need phantom power, in that case just leave it off. Now turn all the knobs on the 286S all the way to the left and also turn the gain on your audio interface all the way down. After that, turn the output gain knob on the 286S to the 0 position at 12 o'clock. Now start up your audio recording program on your computer and hit record. Grab your smartphone, go online and search for a tone generator. You will find a few websites which can generate constant tones, just choose one. Turn the volume of your smartphone to somewhere in the middle and press play on the tone generator. Now lay your smartphone with the tone playing on a table in front of the mic which is connected to the 286S. Slowly turn up the preamp gain knob on your 286S until the yellow LED on the level meter starts to light up. With the tone still playing, look at the audio level meter in your recording software. This should be at a level of -18 dBFS. If the audio level is lower than that, let's say -25 dB, you have to turn up the gain on your audio interface. If the audio level is above -18 dB, you have to turn down the output knob on your 286S. When the audio level your recording software shows is -18 dB, you have correctly calibrated the audio level. You can turn off the annoying tone from your smartphone now and stop your audio recording program. Don't worry, you only have to do this process once, then just take a photo of the output dial on the 286S and the gain knob on your interface and you can easily reproduce this setup. Or just leave the 286S constantly connected to your audio interface and keep your hands away from the 286S's output and your interface's gain knob. The only thing you have to adjust from now on is the preamp gain and the effects on the DBX 286S. So let's have a closer look at the preamp section. The phantom power button we did already talk about. It provides 48 volts of phantom power to your microphone, and if you use a condenser mic, then you want this to be activated. If you use a dynamic mic, you simply leave this off. The 80 Hz high pass button enables and disables a filter which rolls off all frequencies below 80 Hz. For voice recordings, I would suggest you enable this because the human voice typically does not have any frequencies below 80 Hz anyways, and this filter can prevent low frequency rumble. It also helps to control plosives. By the way, if you want to make an instrument recording, turn this high pass off because you want to capture the whole frequency range. Now let's talk about the knob in the preamp section. This controls the gain of the preamp, and right next to that you have a level meter which you will use to set the gain correctly. Talk into the mic like you would in a recording situation and turn the gain knob up or down until the first green LED lights up constantly and the second green LED should also be on very often. In the end, it should look something like in the video. It is okay for the orange LED to occasionally show up when you are a bit louder. As you could see in the calibration setup, the moment the orange LED lights up, your signal went above -18 dB. When the level meter usually shows the green LEDs and just occasionally the orange one, then you still got a decent amount of headroom left. Of course, the red clipping LED should never light up, because if it does, the audio got distorted. And don't be afraid to use the gain of the 286S. The preamp is low noise, so turn up the gain to where it needs to be for the level meter to show the proper audio level. Between the preamp and the compressor section, you can also find a bypass button. If you activate it, all the effects on the 286S, including the output section, are bypassed. So if you only want to use the preamp section of the 286S, you can activate the bypass. But for the most part, you will have this turned off because I guess you want to use the effects and they are the reason why you bought the 286S in the first place. Okay, next up we have the compressor section. Here you can find two knobs, drive and density. You also got a gain reduction meter right next to them. The drive knob controls the threshold of the compressor, meaning it sets the level at which the compressor kicks in. And because compression lowers the overall level of the audio, this knob applies some amount of makeup gain to compensate for the loss in audio level. The density knob controls the release time of the compressor. This means how long it takes the compressor to stop compressing the audio signal once it falls below the set threshold. Generally speaking, you want to have a faster release for audio with faster decaying sounds, like drums, and longer release times for more sustained sounds, like a violin. To dial in the compressor for voice recordings, turn the density knob to the thick lines between 7 and 8. Now talk into the mic like you would in a normal recording situation, while increasing the drive until the first LED on the gain reduction meter starts to light up. This control is quite sensitive, so turn it slowly. The first LED of the gain reduction meter should now pretty much always light up when you're speaking, and if you get a little louder, it's okay for the second and third LED to momentarily show. This is my preferred spoken word compression setup. Of course, you can go a bit higher with a drive to compress the vocal even more. If you do so, I suggest you also lower the density a bit to maybe about 5 to prevent the compressor from pumping. As you can hear, with a higher drive, the compressor compresses the audio more notably, and this is also reflected by the gain reduction meter. Keep in mind that heavier compression will increase the noise floor in your recording. So my philosophy on compression is just use a little to catch some spikes and level out the audio, but don't overdo it so that it introduces noise or audible compression artifacts. The next section is the de-esser. Here you have two knobs, one called frequency and one threshold. The threshold knob controls the level at which the de-esser kicks in, and the frequency knob adjusts the range the de-esser reacts to. So for example, if you turn this to 8K, the de-esser will turn down the audio if any frequencies above 8 kHz go above the set threshold. To set this up for vocals, I suggest to set the frequency knob to 4K, as sibilant sounds are usually around 5 to 8K, and the de-esser will then react to them. After that, speak a sentence with a lot of S's into your mic and turn up the threshold until you see the green LED light up when you make sibilant noises. The de-esser is now set up to slightly lower the volume of shrill sounds. If you want to further lower the S sounds, keep turning up the threshold knob until you see the red LED light up. I wouldn't go much further than that because it can start to sound very unnatural. Of course, you do not have to use the de-esser. If you do not have any problems with sibilant sounds, you simply turn off the de-esser by turning down the threshold knob to the off position. Okay, now onto the enhancer. In my review of this device, I already said that this section is pretty much a dynamic equalizer, meaning that it will boost or cut certain frequencies in your audio. The first knob is the LF detail, and it creates a notch around 250 Hz and boosts the bass at 80 Hz. The cut supposedly makes your voice less boxy sounding, and the low end boost will give your audio some warmth. With this setting there is no right or wrong. I suggest you record a small segment of you speaking while turning the LF detail up or down. The higher you turn the knob, the more pronounced this effect becomes. And if you don't want it, you simply leave it off. The second knob is called HF detail, and it boosts the high frequencies. This filter is a bit more complex. It does not have a static boost and changes depending on the incoming audio signal. But generally speaking, the HF detail will boost high frequencies, and with that you can bring a little bit more clarity to your audio if you like. Like the HF detail, this setting is purely subjective, and you set it to where you think it sounds best. And again, if you don't want to change the sound of your mic at all, you can simply leave it turned off. Let's have a closer look at the expander/gate section. With the gate section you can lower the audio when you're not speaking, and in turn lower the perceived noise floor. A gate lets audio above a certain threshold through and lowers the audio below the threshold. So you have to set up the gate so that it is open when you're talking to let your voice through, and the gate should close when you're quiet. The gate is controlled with two knobs, threshold and ratio. The threshold knob, as explained, sets the audio level at which the gate opens and closes. If audio falls below the set threshold, it then will be attenuated by the gate. And you can see if the gate is open or closed with the two LEDs. When the red one lights up, the gate is closed, and when the green one is on, the gate is open. By how much your audio is attenuated when the gate is closed is controlled with the ratio knob. A higher ratio can attenuate the audio stronger, but can also lead to a choppy sound, because at a higher ratio it is very noticeable when the gate opens and closes. Lower ratios, on the other hand, will let a bit more of the original audio through, but will also sound more natural. For voice recordings, anything from 1.5:1 to 2:1 is totally fine. I personally set it in between these two settings. 2:1 is also fine if you have a higher amount of background noise you want to get rid of, but I wouldn't go much higher than that for voice recordings. Now you have to set up the threshold of the gate with the respective knob. For that I've come up with the following trick. You have to be completely quiet so that the mic only picks up the ambient noise. Now slowly turn up the threshold knob until you see the LED switch from green to a solid red. Then turn up the knob by 4 more notches. Now when you speak into the mic, you will see that the green LED will light up, and when you're quiet, the red LED is on. Even if you breathe in between sentences, this should not open the gate, so this will gate out your breaths as well. And the last knob on the DBX286S is called output. This knob controls the amplitude of the output of this device, and the maximum this should be set to is the 0 position at 12 o'clock. But it can be turned down from that to attenuate the output signal. If you followed my instructions on how to set up this device, you have already set it to the correct position, so just leave this knob untouched. That's pretty much it. If you have any more questions, just leave a comment. Okay, now you know what all the knobs of the 286S do and what to set them to. If this video helped you out, I would appreciate a thumbs up, and if you want to see more videos about audio recording, subscribe to my channel. As always, I will see you in the next one.